I say ex Lola Kutty now, so just so people know, yeah. Okay. Why are people even laughing? I'm a failure, I'm useless. So it's not going to be like, ah, and all, they'll go like, ah, it's funny, okay.
Hello, we are with Anu Menon, one of the most popular comedians in the country. And if there are people who still don't know, she played Lola Kutty for VTV many years ago. She still uses Lola Kutty as her alter ego.
I say ex Lola Kutty now, so just so people know, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, because Amazon Prime gave me a special, so I was like, okay, now we better start working on it. So it's called Menin, and it's, yes, the real life incidents, but also I think the idea was that as women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect at everything. I have to be the perfect mother, perfect wife, perfect party hostess, dress the best. You know, it's like too much of a perfection complex that we have. And I think women put a lot of pressure on other women as well. So I think this was sort of like the anti-superhero. Like, I may not get a lot of things right, but it's okay, you know. It's just, I guess 1 hour of my travels, my marriage, because I'm married to a Gujarati, and culture-wise we're very different. I'm a Malayali who grew up in Chennai. He's a Gujarati who grew up in Bombay. So, you know, our lives are very different. About my son, about life in Bombay, about education, you know, like they're just like everyday things. And I think, yeah, I mean, beyond a point you don't have any idea of your own, you think it's all terrible. So now like, why are people even laughing? I'm a failure, I'm useless, no one's going to laugh, it's a terrible special and all. So now, but it's gone, it's out there.
Okay. How's it doing?
I mean, I think well because I have a second, so I have to start working on that.
Nice.
So I suppose, I mean, for a woman, I think I did okay.
Why do you keep saying for a woman?
Because I get told that so much I mean, I just say it in an ironic way, not because I actually believe in it. But yeah, I think there is a lot of difference in that. Stand-up comedy for women is not considered the ladylike option, or they'll say to me, but you're okay because you don't swear, or you don't cuss, or you have clean humor. But I'm like, I'm not doing it because I think it's the virtuous thing. I'm doing it because that's what I'm most comfortable doing. I'm not so comfortable swearing on stage, in real life maybe, but not on stage, and things like that. So I think there's always that element of like a girl telling jokes about her family, or it's not, you're from a nice family, why should you do it, or who will marry you, or don't do these things, you know, things like that, which I don't think a guy has to face as often or as much. There are certain things, I suppose like I'm always going to be a story comedian because I am quite theatrical, I've studied drama, so generally it's all story based, I use my hands a lot, you know, so that I can't change. So I think everyone has there's no particular voice a comedian has, I think it evolves. So what I start with now may not be what I will be, it's a different version of yourself 2 years hence, another 2 years hence, right? So you're never going to be the same person and your act will always evolve. I am not a hugely political comedian. I do make political comments in the context of a larger story, but I'm not hugely political. But yes, I have been told that keep away from it because the climate, the way it is, that as a woman, again, you have a family, you have, you know, you will be threatened, and I have been, like, you know, told or threatened. So that's not really a risk that you should be willing to take. Having said that, I think also the beauty of comedy is that everyone has a different voice. So, like, honestly, if I'm watching 10 comedians doing anti-Modi jokes, it gets very boring as well. So the beauty is you're looking for a different voice, a different point of view, because both of us are two different people who will go through the same experience, but your version of it is always going to be different from mine. And I think that's why, you know, I'll be interested in yours, you'll be interested in mine. So I think that's the beauty of it. I'm not hugely into social media. I know like I should be, and people keep saying you should put yourself out there more. But sometimes I feel like I'm also busy living a real life and I don't have that much time for this real life, you know. The thing is that I find on social media, whatever you say, you can say the sun is shining, okay? You will have people to validate it and you will have people to vilify. So both exist. So I think there are enough people, like even atheists, for example, are as passionate about atheism or bucks are about religion. You know, so I'm saying there is, now unfortunately that's the time we live in. Like I think you can't safeguard yourself beyond a point. and you have to, yes, grow a thicker hide. I'm not brilliant at growing a thicker hide. Like, it'll irritate me and I can't sleep and go but annoying, like that mosquito will go in my head for a long time. But yeah, it's unfortunate, it comes with the territory. My only issue is that you can't force people to talk about issues all the time. Like, for example, with this whole like CA agitation, people keep saying Bollywood stars are not saying this, Bollywood stars are not. But why should they say anything? Honestly, like, I feel like, for what? Is Varun Dhawan's opinion of the CA going to change yours? He should, like, let him concentrate on doing, like, making a six-pack abs or whatever. He'll be like, let's just leave him. No, like, I don't see. I feel that people should do what they're comfortable doing, and you shouldn't be forcing people to either like go for protest, speak up, because they may be having their own reasons for not speaking. Because whatever he says, he's going to get trolled, you know, for being pro or anti or whatever. So I feel like we as people also should lay off. But with regards to trolling, I always wonder sometimes, are people doing it because they genuinely mean it, or because the anonymity gives them a sense of power and freedom? Because you are like sitting, I don't know, in the middle of Jabalpur somewhere just spewing hate at someone. I'm not going to meet you, you'll probably never meet me. So does that anonymity give you power that you can just say anything? Or do you actually mean the things you're saying? You know, I'm always curious about that. It's a very benign thing. Like, I made a joke about my mum-in-law, saying that once a girl gets married, like among Malayalis, like, we don't do this thing, we don't touch the people's, like, I've never grown up touching your elders' feet, like, you know, you just give them. But in this Gujarati family, you touch their feet, and it's considered a thing that after marriage, that I will call my in-laws mummy and papa. So my joke was, like, as a only child, I felt I was cheating on my parents by calling them, because you always have like mummy and papa, why do you know. So I said I'll call them auntie and uncle till I feel comfortable or something. And because of that, I got like a whole spew of hatred only from women. To say that I was a modern, frustrated woman, my son would do this to me, how dare I say these things, I'm being insulting, I will know the pain when my son is older, now I'm like anything. And then I just stopped reading any comment like, oh, you know, this is the problem with these modern women with their sarcasm and their insults, and this is not the way for future women, anything. So I think that, and it was not even something that I thought about. It was just like, I felt quite a benign like statement. So you never know how something will be taken, and I think the best part is ignorance. I don't read positive or negative. So that way you never know.
You don't react to these comments?
No, because I think that's going down a rabbit hole. Like, if you react once, then like it's like they see an Achilles heel and then they'll go for it. So like even on WhatsApp debate groups, right? I think the problem now is that a lot more people are right-wing than we thought. Like, I think we grew up in an environment, we're all friends, and now suddenly in your like old school WhatsApp groups, or college WhatsApp groups, or family WhatsApp groups, you're thinking, my God, I didn't realize so-and-so uncle was as right-wing as he is, right? So I think that's why people are more shocked today. Like, I cannot believe my own family thinks like this. But the truth is, probably 65-70% of the country do. And I think that's a reality you've got to get on board with, right? What I like is obviously it's a very educated crowd. But they don't go over the top and guffaw. They'll titter. Oh, I feel very Tharurian already. So it's not going to be like, ha, and all. They'll go like, ha, it's funny. Okay, good. Good job. Well done.
It's not easy to make sense.
Yeah. So also there's very little to laugh about today, honestly. But no, it's always, see, also the thing is that my parents didn't grow up in Kerala, I didn't grow up in Kerala, right? So my grandparents grew up. So our idea also, it's very not, but there is a great sense of homecoming when you come back. We still have family, we still have cousins. And ultimately you're coming back home. Except when I got off at the airport, I was like, okay, now we listen to some Malayalam for a change, not Hindi and Gujarati. And I came, and there's a whole bunch of tourists saying, Hepla Joye Chetane, and I was like, Gujarati, you know Gujarati mama. I was, like, people don't believe it ever when I say, but I was a very reticent, shy, quiet, hardworking girl in the corner. I was not cool. I was very sarcastic, yes, and yes, I had but I was painfully shy, to the point where my teacher told my mom, she said, Mrs. Menin, Anuradha is not dumb, she's mum. So my mother was very upset because my mother was the ulta. She was like the naughtiest girl in class. Her work was always in the lazy corner. She's like, I can't believe a child coming from my womb is so straight-laced. So, but that's the, when I went on stage finally at 14, because my mum forced me to, there was no stage fright and there was almost a sense of I've come home, you know. So I always say, whichever theatre in the world I have the privilege of performing at, there's something very welcoming about a musty theatre and a stage. And that always becomes home. Of course you're nervous, of course there are butterflies. And people don't understand, like just because it's my job, it does not mean that I'm not nervous. Every time I go on stage, I have some sort of existential crisis. Why am I doing this? I may not even be funny. No one will laugh. I'm a loser. No, I should have just been in a corporate job. I should have just done something else. You know, you always have that. But that's just, it's just the way it is. I think the misconception is that all performers are extroverts. I think people don't understand that performers are introverts as well and come to life on stage sometimes. And that's the beauty of it, like the dichotomy that exists. And also everyone is not happy and laughing all the time. Some of us are very quiet because maybe we're even sulky. Like I can be quite sulky at home because either we're writing or we like to observe because we're observers of people and life, right? That's where our material comes from. So this assumption that we're joking all the time because that's our job. So sometimes we just want to be quiet, or people just assume that a comedian will not have a serious opinion or incapable of having a serious discussion. Or now, like I was in that discussion with Dr. Tharoor, we were saying that I was like, why is it that comedians have replaced this dying fourth estate? Why do people look to comedians to be politically correct when political action isn't politically correct? Whatever's on display, right? So I think it's also too much pressure, or that as a comedian you should only be talking truth to power. Sometimes you don't want to because you want to get away from it. And for me, honestly, I don't find politics that funny. Like I don't find the situation funny. So I don't look at, attack that topic with any humor. You know, and I admire comedians who have like reams and reams of material just based on one thing that Modi ji said. For me, it's more like, it's more scary or it's frightening, you know, the things that are going on. So I can't attack it from any humor. I think that you can make fun of anything and it's out there and you can make fun of anything. My point is, a lot of times comedians keep saying, harping on freedom of speech, right? Yet at the same time they'll say, you must never punch up, down in comedy, you must only punch up. So that is like for me a paradox, right? Like, and you're, because you are not the purveyor of all humor. Like what you may not find funny, someone else finds funny and vice versa. Like you may not find the Kapil Sharma show funny, but there are a billion other people who do. So the idea of you cannot decide what is punching up and what is punching down. And at the same time say, we are striving for freedom of speech. That means that any kind of speech exists. You just have to agree to disagree, right? For example, I am incapable of making a rape joke, right? Because for me, like I cannot make a joke about rape. But I'm not saying that you can't do it. Or maybe you have a funny joke about it. So I'm saying that there are things that I would find it uncomfortable to joke about. So I will not. There are topics I will not talk about. But I will not take your right away on joking about that.
So you don't get offended by it?
No, I don't get offended. Not at all. Yeah. I mean, I may think something is in maybe not great taste, but that doesn't mean you can't say it. I mean, who am I? Like like someone, I think Ricky Gervais said, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. Which is...
Thank you, Anu.
Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. Thank you.